to the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Welcome back to the newspaper review show. Of course, it's trends in the papers where we skim through the headlines in an attempt to provide you with information as they play out within the country. We'll be highlighting key stories across the country, covering politics, covering economics, covering health and more. Just more or less giving you a quick yet very insightful look into what is making the news. So if you're on your way to work, you're at home, enjoying a cup of coffee, and you just want to be aware of what's playing out in the country or beyond, well, you are tuned into the right radio program. This is Trends in the Papers, keeping you up to speed with everything trending in the country, like I said, across different sectors from health to politics, economics, whatever it is that you're looking to get. Best believe you can get that information here on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. The Morning Express kicks off at 5 a.m. all the way to 11 a.m. Different segments of the Morning Express, one that aims to take care of whatever needs you might desire from radio, whether it be looking for news information, an opportunity to air your opinions, have conversations about business, also have an insight into what's playing out outside the country. I can assure you within the next 4 to 5 hours of the Morning Express, we would be able to meet those needs. But as of right now, we're going to spend about 45 to 50 minutes talking about national issues. And of course, our source would be our different dailies. That is why we are titling this one Trends in the Papers. We do have our dailies with us, the Guardian, the Punch, and the Vanguard newspaper. These are the papers from which we'll be taking our stories. And aside from that, we're definitely going to provide you with some sort of analysis, meaning that we break down these stories, we look beyond the headlines, because sometimes these headlines can be misleading. And so we decide to dig into the story and take the facts, analyze it further so that you have informed knowledge, especially for those of you who would like to call in and give your opinion. You know exactly what you're contributing to. My name once again is Sage Babalola, and for analysis that was promised to you, Fouad Said will be joining us virtually as always to help expand the conversation a little bit further. Fouad, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us as always.
Good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, very good.
All right. Let's get into conversations straight away. The papers are quite bulky this morning, and I'm going to start with the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian for this morning, the top story report: tough times for poor Nigerians as food inflation worsens malnutrition. The Guardian has put together a report on how the current economic reality of the country poses a problem for access to food. Please forgive me, I'm trying to work with the report that we have here. Anyways, let's read the riders while we're trying to pull up the report. It says 100 under 5 children die every hour. 2 million suffer acute malnutrition. Nigeria loses $1.5 billion of its GDP to malnutrition yearly. UNICEF urges federal government to introduce food subsidy, reduce taxes. Federal government stakeholders propose $60 million to tackle malnutrition. So let's have a look into the report that we have here. Okay. Well, whilst we're trying to figure that out, we're using the e-copy. We apologize. Sometimes these things can happen. But basically, from information I have from reading the report earlier today, we are having information that a number of children are dying in thousands across different states in the Federation as a result of malnutrition. The report actually tells us that it would take at least 1,400 naira for one individual to have access to a healthy meal. One healthy meal will cost about 1,400 naira, and about a family of 6 would need more than that. So we're looking at over 500,000 naira thereabout for a month. Finances that a lot of families do not have access to at this time, and so thousands of children are dying of malnutrition. Some are currently in the hospital, and because of the issues that we have in the health sector, they are also unable to cater to the health needs of these children, all of which have been attributed to their inability to eat good and healthy food. What?
Well, again, the Guardian newspaper report just highlights the realities of Nigerians at this time. There's really nothing major other than, of course, bringing out some useful data to the fact that look, there's a lot of hardship in the land. Again, food inflation almost at the high in the history of the country. Again, it's compounded by the fact that look, it's not just food now. People, especially children, are malnourished, and so that means they are susceptible to all manner of illnesses, sicknesses, and diseases. And so means they would have to seek a lot of medical help. Unfortunately, medical help at this time is not something that comes easy. Sage, we've also talked about prescription drugs, what it will cost for you to get, medical care. Even the government hospitals are struggling as we speak. Some of them can't even pay the electricity bill. So you have the Japa syndrome, it's just a problem. You have nurses, you have doctors living in the country in their droves. So it's all complicated really for the average Nigerian at this time. And that's why some of us are saying that look, it's not just to live in denial about these things. It's not just to continue to grandstand or make headlines, make statements to begin to deceive ourselves. We all know that look, this is not the best of time for the average Nigerian. And I think the government should wake up to that reality. They can sit in their high office and continue to make excuses for why Nigerians have to go through this needless hardship, this avoidable suffering, really. But again, what are the suggestions? What are the solutions? The government recently announced, if you remember, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, that of course one of the things they'll be looking at is the possibility of removing import duties from food. They've also talked about importing food into the country, and we are looking at a 150-day period for that. That's about 5 to 6 months of doing that. I don't know whether that has become a policy that is already on course. Has it been implemented, or is this just a policy decision? When is it going to be implemented? It would be nice to know whether indeed anybody that brings in anything now in form of grains, rice, beans, or anything would enjoy that tax waiver or import duty waiver. Is this a policy that has already been implemented? Because one would expect that at least that should have some reasonable effect on prices of food at this time. There's also the conversation, around the government importing some food into the country, which even though I have my reservations about that, maybe. But whatever comes in form of food at this time, whether it's through government or any arrangement, also would help to solve some problem. The government has also talked about working with the military to now begin to find a way to secure our farms, go on an aggressive agricultural drive, planting and what have you. Is that already been done? What are we doing about that? The president also talked about working with the governor. What are we doing? Because again, we make a lot of statements about how to solve this problem. But why a lot of Nigerians are also frustrated is that they think that, look, you just have a beautiful statement, nice policy papers, without anything being implemented, really. So, it is what it is. I made a suggestion of mid-week politics yesterday, and I said that, look, while we are looking for all of these knee-jerk solutions to the problem, while we are making all of these frantic efforts, scratching our heads, getting so troubled about how to solve this problem, just a suggestion from me, because again, we sit back here, we analyze these issues, people accuse us of not coming up with any solution. But again, I think we've come out with hundreds of solutions, thousands of solutions. The problem is always at the point of implementation. But I said that, okay, can we come up with something like a 6 month period? Just imagine the president announced today that, look, there's going to be partial reintroduction of subsidy officially now, because again, all of the talk about resumption of subsidy payment is at an unofficial level. But imagine the president comes out to say that, okay, do you know what? Currently, we're going to be dropping the price of PMS, petrol now, basically, to maybe around 300 naira per liter. Again, talking about the fact that, look, it's going to be partially subsidized for the next 6 months. And what we'll do is, within that 6 months, would ensure that, look, we ramp up a lot of investment with oil production at the upstream level to ensure that we can adequately feed Dangote refinery with crude oil. And the same thing is going to happen with our own refineries. Within that 6 months or to 12 months, we'll also ensure that all our 4 refineries are fully functional and we also begin to refine petroleum products from it so that we can at least stop importation of fuel. At that point stage, we can now begin to tinker with our own prices. We own the food, right? We are refining locally. All of the conversations around landing costs, then the pressure on the dollars and what have you, will naturally become a thing of the past, right? Because again, we are talking about our own local refineries working with our own crude. Remember that we are an oil-producing nation, so we can begin to escape ourselves away from all of these dollar conversations around crude oil pricing, production, and what have you. There's a way we can always work with our own local refineries, with our own crude oil, to bring some succor when it comes to petroleum products for the average Nigerian. I think that would have an immediate effect. This idea of CNG buses, we've not heard anything say practically about the CNG buses. It's just something we hear in the papers, or there's something about it. Look, the CNG conversation has been on since the Buhari era. As we speak, nothing practical clearly has been done about CNG buses or no CNG buses. But I think that, look, if we look at partial subsidy, reintroduction of partial subsidy officially to petroleum products, to drop it to maybe around 300 naira per litre, there will be an immediate effect, really, in all of these issues of hardship and what have you. And then we can now begin to get the government to fully activate all of its actions towards getting our refineries back to life, working assiduously, looking for investment in the upstream sector to shore up crude oil supply to our local refineries. And then we can begin to address the issue of insecurity again with agriculture. So there's a lot that we can do, really. But like I said, all of these ideas, we've seen different things come from the stable of the government, but nothing practically have we seen being done to address the hardship. And that's why Nigerians are agitated. Even the reason why this whole thing about protest or no protest has become the major talking point in Nigeria at this time.
Right. Well, this particular story on the poor nutritional state in the country and also the death toll, 100 under 5 children dying by the hour as a result of their inability to access healthy food. More reports you'd find in page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, speaking of the planned protest, the Guardian is reporting that SGF meets Tinubu's cabinet as APC holds emergency meeting. The Guardian newspaper tells us this morning with a few riders, some of the riders being, "It's a family matter. Give us time." Federal government pleads with Nigerians. Have confidence in president's effort at repositioning economy. Oba of Benin urges Nigerians to shelve protest action. Bwala visits Tinubu, blames looming demonstration on politics, foreign interest. NLC reaffirms solidarity with suffering citizens. Now, with less than a week to the planned nationwide protest against hardship, the Nigerian leadership is becoming apprehensive by the day and unwilling to leave matters to chance. Yesterday, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, met with ministers over anticipated protests. We had quite a number of ministers in attendance. We had Yᴏᴜᴜᴜ, the FCT Minister, Yusuf Toga, Zepania Jisalu, amongst many others. Well, the National Working Committee also of the APC, they summoned an emergency meeting with all of their state chairmen to discuss ways to stave off the planned protests. And following the meeting, the SGF and NSA held with the president's cabinet, we had ministers who came to a conclusion that this is a family matter and all the grievances will be resolved to ensure peace and stability in the country. So, Fuad, it's not as if the government are not thinking of ways to abate this particular protest. If anything, they've made it very clear that the consequences of this protest might be too much for us to handle. It probably would be non-beneficial for anyone. And so, although they did not tell us what precisely they intend to do to prevent this protest from happening, whether by dialoguing whoever the organizers are, and the organizers are anonymous, so that might be difficult, but they're saying there's no need for these protests. We're going to think of active plans that would immediately initiate to make sure that this protest does not hold. And so they had a marathon meeting. Fuad, do you see this protest not happening if the federal government are able to come up with actionable plans as soon as possible within a week?
But I don't think there's anything the government can do within a week to stop the protest if it would eventually happen. It may happen, it may not happen, really. If you understand what I'm saying, because 1 week is too short, really, for the government to come up with anything to address what these protesters are putting out there. at their demands from government. The demand basically is about, look, address the hardship in the land. That's why it's called end hardship, all right? Protest.
And bad governance.
So, well, again, because, we're in an era where you have a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and even malinformation, all coming up to form an era of terrible propaganda in the social media space. It's almost difficult, really, to even know what's going on with this this protest, this coming protest. You just said it. The organizers are anonymous. You can't really say these are the faces or the groups behind this protest. But I also have explained, I think on Media Politics yesterday, that look, it's not necessary that a protest has to be organized by a group or known faces. A lot of times we've seen protests just start as a result of people's agitation. People look at what happened in Kenya, for example. Say, look, eventually this protest was tagged the Gen Z protest, right? Yeah. They said the protest was from Gen Z, but there was never a time where the Gen Zs put themselves together in a place to say, okay, we're going to start a protest. They never even announced the protest. It was just spontaneous. It was a reaction. And it all started from a conversation that got leaked on social media, that got people furious and agitated. And the rest is history. Kenya is still battling, still dealing with the effect of that protest as we speak. Look at the Arab Spring, for example. Say, the Arab Spring that took down about 4 or 5 regimes in the Arab world was not by any group. Nobody sat back somewhere to say, okay, we're organizing a protest. It was just a spontaneous reaction from someone who set himself ablaze and get frustrated. I think it was a food seller or something, and then the rest is history. We knew what eventually happened with the protest. So while the government is fixated on knowing, the faces, where are the faces, where are the people, blah, 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 I think the best the government can do as a response to whether the protest happens now or in the future or it never happens is to begin to address the demands of these people and not live in denial about it. And that's why I would say that one of the things I think the president should do, or the presidency generally should do, is to harmonize public communication. Who are the people speaking for the presidency? Because it's almost like a discordant tune now. Why you have some of the spokespersons or people speaking for the president and the presidency blowing out, threatening everybody, pointing and using fingers. You have others who are a bit more decorous about their statement. Say, there's a bit of more of decorum. They address the issues. Oh, okay, look at this statement, for example. It's a family affair. Let's see ourselves as brothers and sisters. Let's discuss it as a family affair. And as a family affair means you are ready to tell yourself the home truth, right?
Yes.
And accept the truth and accept the reality of Nigerians. But check that against a man that threatens everybody. Oh, it's because they lost election. Oh, they are bad losers. Oh, they want to set the country on fire. Whereas what the protesters or the people that apply to go out of protest are saying is that, look, there's hardship in the land which anybody cannot deny at this time. Look at that other one that has now gone to see the president. Look at what he's saying now. You know the man that was in PDP before that, he was in APC, jumped to PDP, he's back to the APC. He has very easy access to the president now. In fact, yesterday when we saw the picture, I didn't see the video, he was even wearing the cap with the logo of the president. Those are political jobbers, say. And those are the kind of people that will never tell the president the truth. I'm talking about Daniel Bwala. Those are the political jobbers you are saying. The psychopath. And then the next thing he's saying is all politics. Oh, this protest is all politics. Oh, there's international interest. Well, we are saying Nigerians are hungry. Can Daniel Bwala come out to say that Nigerians are not hungry? And those are the people we are saying the president should be careful about. These guys are dead. You know the last time one of our senior colleagues in the TV told him, you move shop. He didn't even deny it. They are moving their shops around. Tomorrow, when the market is on the other side, they can move the shop there too. Those are not the kind of people that should be speaking for the president. I said it to Sandra yesterday. Look at the Minister of Information. Say, the Minister of Information addresses issues. There's a lot of decorum in the way he addresses his issues. He puts it out there in a very careful manner, respectable manner. He's not fighting anybody. He looks cool, calm, and collected when he talks to the Nigerian people. As against Mr. Bayo Ononuga and all of these bad people who are just busy insulting everybody, don't even want you to talk.
Yeah, we're exaggerating.
And exaggerating and just continues to. They are even the ones that are spreading the propaganda the more than those that are accusing. So again, look, the reality is that look, the protest may not even happen. And if it happens, like I've said, the police should do their job. Create a safe corridor for the protesters if there are Nigerians who are willing to protest. Because not everybody will protest. And we already see people, all manner of groups have been showing up now. See, groups done plenty now with different kinds of names.
Different hashtags.
And all of them are, I'm talking about groups now. There are people who are saying they are going to do pro-government protest.
Yeah, and then...
You understand?
Yes.
And then you have the anti-government protest and what have you. But for those who are going to do pro-government protest, it's also within their right to protest in support of the government. Their own reality may be different from the reality of those that want to protest against hardship in the land. Maybe they are well fed. Everything is working for them. They get petrol so easily. Food is not expensive in their own house. If you did their right, that's democracy for you. Everybody has a right. So, but the job of the police and the security agencies is to ensure that protesters are well protected. And that's what they say, protect the protester. And then for anybody that wants to infiltrate the protest, that will cause trouble, mayhem, and take advantage of it, treat them like common criminals. That's what we are saying. But at the end of the day, whether the protest happens or it does not happen, the government should please. Since they are now saying this is a family affair, everybody is pleased. Be patient. Nigerians have been very patient to see. I mean, if 25 years of the Fourth Republic sustained democracy, the fortunes of Nigerians have not been transformed practically. It's back-to-back excuses for failure, and Nigerians are still hoping. They keep waiting, hoping that one day El Dorado would come. So I'm sure they can still endure with this government. But while they are patient with the government, they want to begin to see actionable plans. They also want to begin to see that the government is reading the room and feeling their pain. They don't want to see a situation where they are patient, they are starving. On the other side, you are using 21 billion to renovate the VP residence. You are buying SUV. You are spending money recklessly. Your convoys have not reduced. It's still a very long convoy. The show off must end. You must begin to tell the people that look, we also feel your pain. Not to just continue to mouth it, but let it be seen in your action, and then let us begin to see practicable steps by the government to address the hardship in the land. Nigerians are not troublemakers. They told us that we are the most happy people in the world, right? That's the way we are rated. We are very happy. We like to dance. Look at this popular dance challenge that we now have, Abby.
What, please?
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Everybody is dancing. Despite the suffering, people are doing dance challenge. Our artists are, fantastic people. We are happy people. That's what Nigerians are. We are not bitter people. The government should please do the needful, and Nigerians are going to support any government that listens to them and works for them. Nigerians are not troublemakers.
Right. Well, let's see what really happens, right? They have implored Nigerians to be patient, and let's see what they're able to do in a week that would be able to quell this rising storm, and hopefully they're able to reach a resolution that doesn't have to do with the protest. But then, like you said, with the pro and anti-government groups. This particular story you would find on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. This is trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. I'm here having conversations with Fᴜʟᴜ as together we look through the front pages of our dailies. At the moment, we're looking at the Guardian newspaper, talking about the realities of Nigerians and the reports that have been gathered by the different editors of our papers. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube, so do well to join our live stream and drop your submissions as we go along with the conversation here at Mainland FM. Let's get straight into the other stories that we have here. The Guardian still is reporting complaints against corrupt public officials up by 29%. UNODC targets youth in anti-graft drive. Now, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes has said that bribery report leading to initiations of a formal procedure against public officials in Nigeria has increased nearly threefold between 2019 and 2023. UNODC's head of Justice, Integrity and Health Unit, Mucheneta Mundopa, pointed out that the recently released third National Corruption Survey report in Nigeria by the National Bureau of Statistics and the UNODC has shown that reportage increased from 16 to 45% in the 4 years reviewed, representing a 29% or threefold increase. For basically what we're seeing right now is that we have more people reporting corrupt officials across different sectors in the country. It went up by 29%. And the report further says that young people in Nigeria actually are the ones who are reporting a number of these crimes. And the belief is that young people are going to be the driving force if we're going to eradicate corruption within the Nigerian system. But then the corruption cases that we have in the country obviously is increasing, but most of the times we didn't have information about it. But now we have more people reporting cases of corruption in sectors. And that kind of brings me back to the conversation around whistleblowing, because that was a thing back then until we started seeing a number of whistleblowers having a hard time. Let me put it like that as an euphemism for all of the many challenges that whistleblowers had to go through at the end of the day. What do you think about this? The fact that more corrupt persons are now being reported to authorities?
I think we need stronger institutions really to deal with corruption in Nigeria, especially systemic corruption. Because again, you might have more people reporting corruption cases, but do we have strong institutions to deal with a lot of these cases? Are we also very procedural about this thing, really? But there are people who tell you that the best way to deal with corruption is to make it not happen than to begin to now react to it, if you understand what I'm saying. Preventive measure than being reactive to it. Because at the end of the day, it's better to create a system where it's extremely difficult for you to steal money than to, create a lot of loopholes for people to steal money and then begin to run after, the looters. So I think we need to look at our processes again. We need to look at our procedures again, and see where the loopholes are, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then I think the justice system also has to be improved upon. We see situations where, quote unquote, now looters are left off the hook, based majorly on technicalities. Oh, this thing was filed, it was not filed properly, blah blah blah, and then they're left off the hook. We know a lot of our politicians who have been able to exploit some of the technicalities in our laws, to free themselves of corruption cases and what have you. So I think it has to be a combination of efforts. Number one, strong institutions, serious reforms with our judicial system. Again, look at our laws again, how effective these laws are relevant in dealing with corruption cases. And then, of course, also patching up our institutions so that, we get more preventive about corruption than, reacting to corruption when it has happened. It's more difficult, really, to deal with corruption when it has happened than to prevent it from happening.
Well, check page 30 of the Guardian newspaper for details about that. Let's talk about Dangote Refinery, Fuad. Dangote Refinery may accelerate closure of Europe's existing 90 refineries. The rider, facility a national asset, must not fail, Kwakwanso tells federal government. The Dangote oil refinery could bring an end to a decade-long gasoline trade from Europe to Africa, worth $17 billion a year, heaping pressure on European refineries already at risk of closure from heightened competition, analysts and traders have told Reuters. The refinery started production in January and cost about $20 billion. It can refine up to 650,000 barrels a day and will be the largest in Africa and Europe when it reaches its full capacity this year. Well, we're being told that it's been long touted as the turning point for Nigeria's quest for energy independence. Nigeria's Africa's most populous nation and top oil producer imports almost all its fuel due to a lack of refining capacity. For this report is telling us that Reuters actually is telling us that if Dangote Refinery starts to function at full capacity, it might actually be one of the catalysts that would drive Europe's existing refineries to shut down amid competition and what have you, because of the size and the refining capacity of the Dangote refinery. And they're speaking about prospect, but based on the reality that we have at this time, the challenges to the operation of the Dangote refinery at this time, do we really believe that the Dangote refinery has the capacity to lead to something of an extension of Europe's refinery that have been existing and functioning for decades?
I think it's a bit exaggerated to say. 90 refineries in Europe will close down because of that. I think there's a bit of exaggeration there, if you understand in that report.
Right.
But again, we could see a situation where, of course, we reduce our importation.
Right.
We become more self-sufficient locally here in Africa. Than relying on imported refined products. That's just the mystery, really. You have the resources here, and it's not just petroleum product of crude oil now we're talking about things. A lot of our raw materials, God-given resources in Africa, are exported to these countries raw. And then they create the facilities, they create the plants and machineries, they create the factories, then they produce those things, and then we go there importing refined products or, produced commodities. Whereas those things they have been able to do in terms of setting up refineries, setting up factories to refine these products or produce them into consumable goods, are things we can actually do in Africa. So it may be from this story, you might begin to see the conspiracy against having functional refineries in Africa, to why there seems to be some form of conspiracy against the Dangote refineries. We've always said that the conspiracy is not just local. There are also international dimensions to it. The reasons why the IOCs don't want to sell, the reasons why they are also directing Dangote to meet with their foreign trading partners, who are basically people who just sit in their offices with one or two tables and begin to direct and dictate the operations of the oil sector. But at the end of the day, Africa and Nigeria particularly, we need to tell ourselves the truth. For how long are we going to be the slaves of these people? We can't continue to be their slaves.
Indeed.
Because we have the resources here. So we might not see a situation where all their refineries will close down, or 90 of them will close down. But definitely, and I think we should not even bother about what happens to them.
Yeah.
Let's think more about ourselves first. Let us solve our own problems first. And Dangote has said it, that look, if I get crude supply from Nigeria, adequate crude supply from Nigeria here, my main focus will both first be the local market, because the market is available here. I'm interested in refining to supply, local consumption before even taking it out of the country. But what we've seen in the last 8 months, about 1 year of the operations of that refinery now, stage is that look, because again he has imported a lot of his crude supply, it is importing it to Europe and other parts of the world. So again, we've said a whole lot about the need for us to solve our own problems. And one of the ways to solve our problem here in Nigeria is to get our refineries to work. And not just our refineries to work, ramp up oil production at the upstream level, get a lot of investment at that level, and make sure that we're able to feed our refineries with crude oil. And then we can take it from there. While we now begin to look at the agricultural sector, some of the other extractive industries, God has blessed Africa. Mother Africa needs to wake up. That's just what it is.
Right. 90 refineries in Europe. That's quite impressive. I think we have about 12 or 13 in Africa as a whole. 4 in South Africa, 4 in Nigeria, maybe 2 Cote d'Ivoire, 1 Ghana, or something like that. But then
Angola, I think, also has about 2 or 3.
Yeah, so about 12, 13 in Africa. Okay, well, that particular story you find on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, regarding the education sector, there's a little bit of chaos going on at the moment. NANSKIC, as federal government slash allowances of scholars abroad. Now, the federal government has slashed the allowances of foreign scholars currently stranded in Russia, Morocco, Algeria, among others, by 12.7%, provoking the condemnation of the National Association of Nigerian Students. The government has attributed this decision to the current economic crisis. But the National Association of Nigerian Students has described the decision as insensitive and called on the government to reverse the decision with immediate effect. I'm trying to look for the figures, the reduction that was made. So the total amount that was initially payable to each student was about $5,650, but right now it will be around $4,370 per scholar. So monthly allowances were slashed from about $500 to $220. The graduation allowance was slashed from $2,500 to $2,000. And the research allowance was slashed from $1,000 to $500, amongst others. So right now, students that are studying abroad, because of the federal scholarship arrangement that Nigeria has with other countries, where we swap, we have students from other countries come to Nigeria, and then students from Nigeria go to other countries. They might be having a difficult time at this moment. In fact, a number of them are saying if this arrangement is actually implemented, we might see a number of them having to drop out because the amount will be insufficient for them to carry out their activities there academically and in other ramifications properly without proper funding from the government. So Fuad, what do you think? The government said we don't have the resources to keep up with the payments that we give to the students, and so the best thing to do is to minimize it. What do you think?
Well, I would think that if the monies are not available, students also have to look up for alternative sources of income. to complete whatever they are doing abroad. Even though one would expect that, look, when agreements like this are made, before you take people out of the country, you have to fulfill your own part of the bargain. I'm talking about government now, see.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a way it distracts from why these guys are there. It could even just throw them off balance and then become very problematic for them. But I think that sometimes this things happen, economic struggle, and then people also have to find a way to adjust. But beyond all of that, I think we also have to look at this educational exchange policy in some of these other countries too.
Right.
I think this is the time to evaluate some of these are international agreements. If there are agreements, for example, that we have not really seen any serious benefits, can we just stop and focus on real issues too? Because again, this scholarship scheme, the scholarship board, this international educational exchange where government puts a lot of money, I would have really wanted a situation where we can really evaluate and see whether there are really tangible benefits from all of this exchange, whether really we are getting anything from it. Then who are these students? When they study, do they come back to the country? What is their direct contribution to the economy? Again, because we don't have the details, I'm being careful. I'm just saying that, look, now that we're talking about scarce resources, we may begin to evaluate some of the things we put money into. And one of them is something like this. If we have not been getting any serious benefit from it, can we think out with it a bit to become more beneficial for the country? And if there's really nothing we can really benefit from it, if it's just on the platform of Jamboree, I think we should just stop it and look at how to fund education here, get it more fully functional and develop with it. There's a lot that we can do with our own educational system here. Our schools need a lot of money. We still having funding issues. That's begin to look at some of these foreign exchange educational policies that we may not have really been getting any serious benefit from. But I don't have all of the information, so I'm being careful. But I think it's time to evaluate some of these things now that we're talking about scarce resources.
It's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper, where OPS faults fresh MPR hike foresees shutdown of more businesses. Nigeria heading in direction of Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Adebayo warns. Members of the organized private
Zimbabwe.
Members of the organized private sector, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria have expressed displeasure against Tuesday's decision by the Central Bank of Nigeria to raise the monetary policy rate by 50 basis points, bringing it to 26.25% to 26.75%. Oh, bringing it from, 26.25% to 26.75%. They said it's coming on the heels of escalating inflation and surging food prices, and more businesses are at risk of shutting down. For yesterday on Situation Room, I had a conversation with an analyst regarding some of the monetary policies and also ease of doing business in the country. Now, my analyst is of the opinion that the monetary policies, especially the MPR and hiking the MPR, naturally is the only thing that the CBN can do at this time, because that's the only power that they currently have to wield. The only reason why this is non-beneficial, or why this comes off as non-beneficial for business owners, is because we have fiscal policies that are not in tandem with the monetary policy. There's supposed to be some sort of convergence between fiscal and monetary policies, but because of our high debt profile, some of our tax policies, our trade policies, amongst other things, whatever the CBN does, if they decide to reduce the interest rate, it will even cause more problem for us. So they have to maintain this, but then our fiscal policies have to converge, and that's the only way we can see the impact of what they're doing.
Well, the last MPC meeting moves from 26.25 to 26.75, 50 basis points. You see that it was a bit more cautious approach to this raising of interest rates. This is probably the smallest rate.
Yeah, 50 basis point. Yeah.
Rate. Yeah, I think the last time was about 150 basis points.
Yeah.
There was one that was about 200 or 250 basis points. So again, the CBN is a bit more cautious about this thing, because again, I think generally all economists, all experts, analysts have said that, look, what we have is not necessarily a demand pull inflation. We have a supply issue here. If you understand what I'm saying, the problem is the CBN can only tinker with monetary policy.
Yeah.
Fiscal policies are not domiciled with them. You understand what I'm saying? And like you said, there should have been a convergence. Really. While you are tinkering with your own monetary policy, something is being done at the level of the government with fiscal policy. Unfortunately, in that area we are lacking. It's almost non-existent, really. And that's why at the beginning of the show, like I told you, we have to stop making the headlines. I'm talking about government now. I'm making the headlines is, all of these beautiful speeches and statements we will do, look, a lot of these briefcase economists who have access to government officials or government, just come up with some of these things. Sometimes they don't even think some of these things through. How do you want to implement it? Remember there was a time when they talked about, I think sometime last year, or was it early this year, that they talked about opening up the reserve. Oh, we are going to bring down seeds. So this, whereas in reality the silos are empty. Again, we need to really ask ourselves, what has led to this rise in price of food, increase in inflation, and all of these things? It is, one, the issue of subsidy. We have to address that. The floating of the naira the way we did. Number three, the aggressive revenue drive of the government. It's also something we need to ask ourselves. And then number four is corruption. Because at the end of the day, government is making more money, nothing gets done practically. Because at the end of the day, we still have high corruption index that takes all of these things away. As we speak now, say, we have added 6.2 trillion naira to our budget, right?
Yes.
It means that we have added 6.2 million naira more trouble to our budget because most likely we'll have to borrow more. And in borrowing more is not even the problem. What do we do with our borrowing? And when we get to the point where we are now borrowing to begin to fund consumption, we are borrowing to pay salary, and the current expenditure is being sorted out on the basis of borrowing, then we are in trouble. So again, these things have been said severally. The government needs to wake up. The fiscal end of our economic policy that is suffering, we need to close that gap. We need to really ensure that that works too. So that all of the efforts of Mr. Cardoso can begin to materialize into positive impact for the economy. As it is now, the man is on his own. And if we agree that, look, until there's a convergence between monetary and fiscal policies, whatever Mr. Cardoso does is just a complete waste of time. What he does is just that, look, the wound is still bleeding. The man is just applying the same thing and the blood is still coming out. We are hoping that the country will not bleed to death, economically speaking now.
I hope so. Well, the LCCI Director General, Dr. Tʀᴇɪᴅs, says that what we need to do is very quickly start disbursement of funds, especially for capital projects. Now that we've expanded the budget, we should quickly disburse funds for capital projects and also improve productivity in terms of agriculture, stabilize energy prices, and maybe that would help to reduce inflationary pressures more effectively. Those are some of the things.
Those are all fiscal policies, right?
Yes, those are the things that we should be doing.
Does the CBN have a control over all of the things that I just mentioned?
No, yeah, that's why she's saying it that. So we need to fix these things because the only thing the CBN can do is tinker with the monetary policy. There's nothing else they can do. So they're doing all they can, but we need to help them out basically and fix all of these things that have been mentioned. So it really still boils down to the government at all levels. You can get more information of that particular story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, the other stories here: NDLEA nabs Lagos drug baron after years of evading arrest. Is on page 9 of the Guardian.
Very good one.
Yeah, it's actually really great. And also, the federal government resumes mass trial of terrorism suspects. Is on page 3. It's really great, to be honest. I've always thought that they would expedite cases that has to do with terrorism and all these things, so we know what we're doing. Are you arresting them? Are you giving them capital punishment?
This story talks about some convictions that we got to so far. A number of them from the report shows that a number of them are actually in jail. They've been prosecuted and sent to jail.
Yeah.
But I think more of them needs to go to jail. And not just go to jail, we have to ensure that they remain in jail and not escape, the way it happened in the Kuje prison.
Yes, well,
I think a lot of this idea of pardon or let's prosecute these guys and throw them in jail. That's what we should begin to see.
Yeah,
so I like the mass trial. And then let's get it sorted. Those that should go to jail among them should go to jail.
Yes.
If there's any innocent one among them, let the person go.
They've done that. 366 convictions in the trial of Boko Haram terrorists. 896 suspects were discharged for lack of evidence, and 61 other cases have been adjourned till further hearing. And also we've secured the conviction of 4 Boko Haram financiers. So that's what's happening right now, and 300 suspects are currently on trial, so they're doing this as fast as possible, which is really great, to be honest. And we have here also Meta deleased 63,000 Facebook accounts over sextortion scams. This is on page 4. The federal government have been very proactive about trying to deal with the cybercrime problems that we have in the country with a few of the acts and the bills. And also we've had Facebook as well. There's skimming through and looking for accounts that have been linked with extortion and scams, and they've taken down about 63,000 Facebook accounts that have been linked with all of these crimes. You can read about it page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, for Punch newspaper, the top story is, as expected, governors, ministers meet today to stop hunger protests, and the reps asked the federal government to embrace dialogue as President Tinubu sues for peace.
They should not give the governors any money.
They
Probably
would just ask them to speak to their constituents.
Yeah, no, you hear that, the government has started again, give some money. You know, we saw 2 billion. We didn't see anything.
Why not?
And we've been hearing that trailers of, no, I'm just saying, they can meet, look at reasonable ways of addressing the issue. But we should not now hear that after the meeting, it has now been decided that some billions of naira will now be given to our governors to go and share to people. That's wasting time. We've been sharing to the governors. It will not happen. It's just going to be the same of the same. We saw 2 billion. Look, a lot of monies have gone to the governors actually. Even though I really don't want to put myself in a position where I begin to pity President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because he has said, look, don't pity me. I demanded for the job. But after raising so much money, showing up government revenue, billions of naira running to trillions have gone to these governors.
What? We'll have a conversation.
Let's ask ourselves
about the inefficiency of these governors at another time, because
but they should not give them money again. They can give them the allocation, but not any special intervention money to go to any governor. Let's look at other creative, more practical ways of addressing the hardship in the country, not to give money to government. It's just going to be waste of time.
River State, there's a lot of unsettling things happening in River State, because the report here on the front page of the Punch tells us mayhem as Fᴜʟᴜ supporters clash in Rivers. A baby was reportedly tear-gassed and became unconscious on Wednesday as supporters of River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara clashed with loyalists of ex-governor Nyesom Wike in Obio Akwa local government area of the state. So apparently there was a community outreach that was going on at the resident that was close to Martin Amewule, the one that is loyal to Nyesom Wike. And apparently some of his supporters went to the medical outreach venue to ask what was going on. And then the members that were there are the ones loyal to the governor Siminalayi Fubara. Well, it led to a clash, and then the police had to come to dispel the crowd. And unfortunately, they used tear gas, which affected a baby that became unconscious as a result of this. Fuad, can we now see that this clash between two individuals is spreading, such that we're having things like babies becoming unconscious because of tear gas and an attempt to de-escalate a problem that was ultimately avoidable, I beg your pardon.
Say, very unfortunate again that, look, every time we talk about River State now, we talk about politicians loyal to either Wike or the governor. There's no report now that does not come with, something loyal to it from Wike. A governor that used 8 years, that practically used 8 years unchecked. When I say unchecked, he governed the state as almost like an emperor. There's nobody could check him. Nobody could ask him questions. Opposition figures were shoved aside. Nobody could tell it. And there's a man, after 8 years, and gotten another job in Abuja as the FCT minister. You don't know which party belongs to now. It's everywhere. But somehow, the way we do our politics here, he helps somebody who says it is God's son to become governor. And the man wants to be in Abuja to continue to cause chaos and crisis in River State. Like I've always said, these are democracy. We have gotten to a point where we are now about strong men, not about strong institutions. We have built a lot of strong men. And those strong men we have built are the reasons why we are not making any meaningful progress with our democracy. I was listening to President Biden's speech just very early this morning. I think that happened yesterday, but there was a recap of it on the CNN. I know what he said. I said, look, in America there are no dictators. He said in America dictators don't rule. The people rule. In Nigeria, the people are not in charge. It is these strong men that are disturbing us. And we are just going to beg them. This is our fourth republic. They should not allow it to go the way other republics have gone. What happened to them while those other ones failed? They should just leave.
Thank you, Fuad. Yes, thank you very much. That's it for Trends in the Papers. Join us at 8:40 as we continue conversations. It's Open Mic Thursday. We'll open the phone lines so you can also speak to these matters. Thank you very much, Fuad. We'll be back by 8:40. Don't go anywhere.